Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to the Friday edition of the TED Show. We're at episode 92 today. What a great number. That's not my guest's age or mine, so don't make any snide comments later on. But I am with my very new friend, Steve Gordon, who has literally enlightened and entertained me since we began talking about 30 minutes ago. Let us know that you can hear us and see us. We were hoping Angela Robbins would be on this. Hey, Rebecca, you always are good about that, so you can see the name. So this is new for him. This is his first time live. So Bob, let us know you can hear us or see us. It was a little bit scratchy earlier, and I just want to make sure that everybody can see it because he's got some great stories and some great insight to life in his very young, I'll let him tell you how many birthdays it was, years, and a fantastic story. Thank you, Rebecca. So she said, all good. So this is what I watch. I can barely see it, though, with my eyes. I don't know if you can see that far. That's why I look here. So Steve is new to this and very, very new to this whole Facebook Live thing, and we welcome you to the show. So when I reached out to Angela, who is a wonderful human being and is going to help me with a lot of things, and she's a brilliant lady, and I said, you know what? Happy afternoon, Kat. Hey, Susie. See, I can say hi to people so you engage. And I want you to ask Steve questions because he's got a plethora of experience and history. So welcome.
And a lot of questions.
And ask a lot. Welcome.
I want to add to that, not only happy Friday, but happy any day. And when you've had 75 birthdays, every day is the greatest thing.
See, he told you, 75. Can you believe it? 75. He's got hair. I have friends that don't have hair. I'm not going to point any of you out, but welcome. So you sat down. He got here a little early today, and I had some meetings, and initially just engages. You are fearless in the engagement side. So give them a little bit of background about you because you have a fantastic story. You've got a Mad Men, he was describing that to me, a Mad Men, Madison Avenue advertising story. You have what you decided to do later on in life and found your passion. You're a potter. And I would love to hear the story. So give us a little background.
I can't add to that. I'm leaving.
He already said that earlier to Angela, and she didn't like that very much.
No. Actually, I've always been very comfortable in front of people, and I think it comes back to when I was a child. I had an older brother, who was 13, and I was like when my mother was 40, I was born, so it was like the second coming, so whatever I did, I was encouraged. So I've never been afraid to be around people, and I've always been joyful about it because I feel totally comfortable. And I think about the children, it's like, when the parents say, don't you ever, or you stay there and don't say a thing. I was very fortunate. But as to my career, if any of you have ever watched a program called Mad Men, I was Draper, but not that good looking. And I think
you're pretty good. Look at the hair, ladies and gents. Look at that.
I have to tell you that program is incredibly accurate. It makes the hair go up on the back of my neck. But there's one fallacy to the whole thing, and I lived it. We never, ever took a drink in the office. Seriously. Yeah. You couldn't. If you ever took a drink in the office and you got a call from Procter & Gamble and they want to know the brand share for a test market in Phoenix, you said, let me sober up, you just lost the account.
Ouch.
But on any particular day, the receptionist would say, the rep from Life magazine is in the lobby. Would you like to go to lunch at Four Seasons? Yeah. The meetings were incredible. You visualize this, you're sitting in a conference room, everybody's smoking Marlboro with the exception
Yeah, it was still smoky, right? So that's real.
We all did.
Yeah.
Except for the market research guy and the media guy. They all smoked pipes and had beards that looked very savant. But you're sitting around a table with a Woody Allen, a Picasso, an Einstein, a Newton, and everybody's trying to one-up one another and throwing a Don Rickles. There were no computers then.
I wonder if you were the Don Rickles. I have this impression that you were the comedic relief.
There were times, yeah, we all took turns doing that. And that's, Bill Bernbach, who ran Dog Bain Bernbach, said, in terms of his business, every night my inventory goes down the elevator. Because to run an ad agency, all you needed was legal pads, pencils, and what we used to call plasma was coffee, and bright people. And that's what that business was. So net, that program is very accurate. In fact, in the 70s, there was a restaurant that was very hot in New York called Rattazzi's. That's where you took the client when they came to New York.
Rattazzi's. I bet it was good food.
It was. And one year, it was a hot restaurant. I was casually watching the show about a year ago, and somebody says to the other, Tell you what, I'll bet you lunch at Rattazzi's. I almost fell off the chair. It was like going back. It was a time warp.
I love it.
So yeah, that's very accurate. Very, very accurate.
Well, I want to say hi to Evan. Evan is from Switzerland, and he's tuned in. So good to see you. Thank you for tuning in, Evan. But I am a little disappointed because I've been trying since Mad Men came on, actually since birth probably, to bring back the 3 martini lunch, because in my mind that's what's going on. So I'm working on it. We're going to pretend still. I'm just going to live in my dream. So you did that, and you had so many amazing experiences, but you left after, you said 15 years, I believe.
Well, from 1970 to about 73, 74, I changed careers and went into publishing. And then I met my former wife, and she ran an ad agency. We ran an ad agency in Fort Lauderdale. When she died, I didn't want to continue the agency, and I literally had to reinvent myself. And
what gave you when you were going to reinvent yourself, you decided at that point, all right, I don't want to do ad agency stuff anymore. I've done this for the majority of my career. Although you were telling me, too, that you worked. One of the things I'd love you to tell is the farmer story before we progress past, because that was so fascinating to me.
I was raised in New York. I used to think America ended west of the Hudson. I truly believe that. I had an opportunity to handle all the agricultural advertising for Monsanto in the 70s. I would go out, I was probably on every 400-acre farm in the Corn Belt, not only to mention, if you're growing wheat and barley up in Fargo, I could talk to you there, and if you're growing peanuts down in Georgia, you got beggar wheat, your peanuts you got to take care of. So I would be in the farm country all week long meeting these people, and I have to tell you, this is an unsung, unappreciated, most hardworking, resourceful group of people we have. And I was very grateful to be working with them. And I would go out to a farmer's field, and I would tell them, you got some foxtails, fall panicum, crabgrass in your corn, and in your beans, you got some ragweed and pigweed. And I said, "Your daddy farmer around here?" I said, "No, I'm from New York." But the amazing thing was, I would go back to New York every Monday, and my office was across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral, 666 Fifth Avenue. The elevator door would open downstairs. There's a pile of people in there, and because I'd been in the Corn Belt, I would say, "Good morning," and people would stand back like he's got a gun.
Right.
Or a
they didn't know, because nobody talks to each other in New York.
I mean,
that's
if you
sort
go
of
to the
true.
Midwest and you go into a small coffee shop, as many of you know, how do you like your new tractor? Hey, your beans are looking real good. Looks like cattle is up for the... But when I used to say good morning, and they'd step back like, I realized I'm back in New York. This
I love
is
it.
what it is.
Hey, Bob, how are you doing? And you know what's in this cup, Bob, so thank you, allegedly. Diane Bourne says she was an FFA member in high school. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing, though, that you were able to go from New York, because you're right, I was born in Northeast Jersey, so, Florida was the South, and that was hee-haw. We talked about that earlier. But for you to go there and be successful and be able to pick up on it and have an appreciation for the unsung heroes, which are our farmers.
In the 1970s, the Arabs turned off the oil, and I got very upset. And I wrote a bumper sticker for Monsanto. They printed 50,000 of these. And the bumper sticker read, "Agriculture is America's oil," because that's how I felt. Sure. But I want to tell you the story about Roundup, because that's an...
Yeah, tell us about Roundup.
I was responsible for the launch of Roundup herbicide in 1975. I was handling the advertising. The president of Monsanto met me in a lobby with a little vial, which I still have, and his words were exactly this: "Hold on to this, it's going to be worth money someday." Well, what is that? He said, "A brand new product we're about to launch called Roundup. It's going to save the company and transform agriculture around the world." Well, what do you need from me? He says, "You're the guy out in New York writing all of advertising ads. Our first clearance is against Banville and 2,4-D and railroads and right-of-ways, but every week we're going to have a new clearance. So I need for you to come back with a big idea." I came back this next week with the very first ad for Roundup, announcing Roundup, and from now on nothing grows unless you want it to. He flipped. Here's where the story really gets interesting. "Well, we need to get serious about this. We need to have an attorney working for you and reporting, make sure we don't get sued. Go down to the basement and see if you can find Clarence." I had no idea who Clarence was. I never met him.
And the basement, nonetheless.
Yeah, that's where he was. I go down to the basement. There's one guy with his feet up on the desk, reading the paper and having coffee. I said, "Are you Clarence?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You're working for me now. Dick Mahoney sent me down. I'll be here every Tuesday about 10:30 with a new ad for Roundup. You're the attorney. Make sure we don't end up in jail." He said, "Okay. Here's the first ad for Roundup, announcing Roundup. From now on, nothing grows unless you want it to." He says, "You can't say that. I said, the president of Monsanto just approved it." He said, "No. It's a brand new product. There may be some weeds in the Himalayas." I said, "Clarence, you're right. Clarence is Clarence Thomas, United States Supreme Court. We had an ongoing thing every Tuesday. Clarence, you got a donut and coffee? I came in from New York. Where's mine?
That's an amazing story. Yeah. You know what's funny is you had told me that you knew him, and I was still going, Clarence, I know this is going to be somebody I know. That's a great story.
I would love to be able to reach him because his exact words, it's a brand new product. There may be some weeds in the Himalayas. We don't control. You can't make an absolute, but you can't just send a letter to the Supreme Court Justice.
Right.
And I would love to reconnect because I know he would remember that.
Well, you don't want to knock on the door.
It's just like the Donald Trump story.
Tell the Donald Trump story, because I haven't heard all of it, but I'm dying to hear it.
A lot of stories.
I know. That's why I said you sat down, and I don't really have to direct you. I have to ask questions.
Donald Trump and I once had the world's greatest dirt bomb fight. And if you know what dirt bombs are, little kids throw dirt bombs. We lived in Queens in the 50s, and my parents wanted my brother and I to have a private home, so we looked out at a place called Alley Pond Park where Donald's father was building attached homes. And I have to tell you, my mother thought Donald Trump's father was the penultimate prince. She loved him, thought he was a great gentleman. Well, I want to set a scene for you. We're walking into this unfinished home. It's an attached home in Alley Pond Park, and you could smell the sawdust. I want you to feel the cold. It's February of the cement, and smell the cement that's curing. I walk up 1 or 2 steps, and I see a pair of spit-shine shoes. I walk up another 2 steps, creases on pants like cut with a razor blade. Another step, the hem of a top coat. I get to the top level, and there's a man with a red tie and a white shirt and a mustache and a hat, and he says, "Hi, my name is Fred Trump. Why don't you go in the back and play with my son Donald?" I said, "All right."
That's amazing.
I went out to the back, and there's Donald standing there like a lump. His nose was running, he had hair over his head, and he was wearing a cloth coat, a woolen coat that had big checks of maroon brown and yellow with a zipper. And there's 2 kids, we're about the same age, and they were putting down the plumbing pipe in the backyard. So there was these 3-foot trenches, and I figured, I said, I got a great idea. Let's have a dirt bomb fight. You be the Germans, I'll be the Americans. So he's over there, and I'm over here for about 25 minutes. We're throwing dirt bombs back and forth, having the times of our lives. It was the greatest thing that ever happened.
I love it.
Then I hear my mother or my father saying, "We've got to go now, so see you around." Well, that was it.
You probably couldn't actually reach out to him about dirt bombs either, because you would also have a knock on your door. Yeah. Anything bomb related.
I thought about that.
Yeah, anything bomb related.
No,
but I'm sure he remembers that.
But he doesn't know the part about his father being so gallant and saying to me, "Hi, my name is," instead of, "Hey kid, why don't you go in the back?" He said, "Hi, my name is Fred Trump. Why don't you go in the back?" That's the kind of gentleman he was. That's how he was raised.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Kim Bissett is on, and she says, "I could listen to his voice all day long. It's very soothing." And you've done voiceovers.
I have. I've done a lot of voiceovers.
That was a good catch.
That's an interesting thing about voiceovers. As you can probably tell, I was raised in New York.
No.
But you can actually change. I believe that language is no more than, it's like music. It's sound and rhythm. If I went out to North Dakota, I could easily say, "So you're growing wheat or barley this year? Are you going to go in Minot or Bismarck? You're going to go to the farm show." And if I was in the South, I'd say, "You got some beggar wheat in your peanuts." And you can actually change that, because I think there's a linguistic phenomena. Wherever you went to high school, you're hardwired to speak that way. I mean, I can usually tell somebody, "You're from Philly or Baltimore, right?" How can
they have a very distinct.
Yeah. Chicago,
yes.
I got that in a minute. Wisconsin,
Me too,
Minnesota,
yeah.
You can hear that. You can pick it up.
You can.
So yeah, but people say, "Where are you from originally?" New York, and I'm dying for a cup of coffee.
Coffee. I sing to my kids. They ask every year, and they're older. Sorry, kids. They love to hear me sing "Frosty the Snowman" because it's frosty, and they're like, "What is Frosty?" And they think that is so funny. But I can go to that accent because that's what I grew up with, and I get a daughter-in-law and all that good stuff.
There's another story I have to share with you.
Please share as many stories as you want.
For those of you who love classical music, my brother was with the New York Philharmonic for 46 years. I was raised with that. And when I was single and he was single, he used to say, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll go." And he was paying for it. Well, a week after the Reagan-Gorbachev summit, I don't know when that was, we were in Moscow and Leningrad. So they're rehearsing, and I'm at the Armory. I had the Hermitage all to myself.
Wow.
Tourism didn't start. Every single night to packed houses in Moscow and Leningrad. There were lines in the men's and ladies' room. The New York Philharmonic was there. What do you think Zubin Mehta had them play as an encore?
Oh, I gotta know.
The
Tell me.
Stars and Stripes Forever.
Nice.
The guy next to me says, "What is that? Russian composer?" I said, "No, that's American." "That's great music." They were on their feet. They were out of their minds. To this day, the hair goes up on the back of my neck when I remember that.
I love that.
The New York Philharmonic playing the Stars and Stripes Forever a week after the Reagan-Gorbachev summit.
Wow.
For those of you who love classical music, that can only be topped by the time I went to the Harwood's 50th anniversary concert in Carnegie Hall. That was something. He played the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto.
See, he's such a wealth of knowledge. Like Jerry McDaniel's on, he says this gentleman needs to have his own radio show and just talk and tell stories. That's why I described him. I just met Steve today, honestly, about an hour before we started, maybe a little longer. And he immediately goes into stories because there's a comfort level and you make people feel comfortable. And I think that's what they're sensing, the audience is sensing from you. So that's a gift.
At the end of the concert, my brother said, after the concert, I'll meet you backstage. We'll go to the stage deli. So he's a classically trained musician with perfect pitch. So we meet outside, and I'm waiting to hear what he thought about the concert. I'll never forget what he said. He said, a Horowitz, he's not. A Horowitz, he's not.
All right, so we're at 85, right? So you have gone through, and then you're still working in your field. You tell me what you got involved in, because eventually what I want to get to is the fact that you are now an incredibly talented, very well-placed potter, which I had to ask Steve if that was, I actually told him I didn't know that was an actual word, but a potter. But you have a little bit of in-between time there where you were still working for the man, working in the world, and doing things. So,
well, what happened was I'm happily married to the most marvelous, intelligent person, and she's even smarter when she's got a computer, because if I say Frank Sinatra died about, she'll say, "Honey, actually he died about 15 years." So I don't get it. I take out the garbage into the pottery.
Smart man.
She knows. My wife is brilliant on her own, but with Google, she knows everything. So I whatever she says, "Honey, you're right." But no,
that's why you're still married, my friend.
In the seventh grade, I watched a teacher named Mr. Zeckendorf. He had a green shop coat on. I was 13 and half asleep. He took a lump of clay and made a cylinder. And there's an expression in French, "le coup de foudre," it means the blow of thunder. I was hit with the blow of thunder. I can't believe I had the conviction at that time to say, I'm going to learn how to do that. I did it intermittently, and when we moved to Mount Dora about 6 years ago, I essentially told Annie, I said, I have no more excuses. I'm taking that corner of the garage. I'm getting a wheel. I'm getting a kiln. My life is not over. A year later, we had to move to a much bigger house. Now my work is all over the world and at Pottery Barn. And I know for a fact we all have those inherent creative talents. I'm absolutely certain of it. It depends on a teacher or parent at the right time saying, this is called a box of crayons. Please don't draw on the wall. I'll give you all the paper you want. And I'll give you some examples of that. My brother was 4 years old. My grandfather gave him a toy violin, and my brother was personally hired by Leonard Bernstein. A month ago, my brother gave a concert in Carnegie Hall and still judges Juilliard. I told you my pottery is at Winter Park, and I met the new manager about a couple of weeks ago. I said, so Kelly, what do you do when you're not doing it? Well, I'm an artist, and I sell my work. I said, when did that start? When I was 4 years old, I took some crayons and drew under the table. What did your parents say? Oh, they loved it. I said, you're very lucky. A week ago, I was in Dunedin, Florida for a workshop, and I'm sitting next to this gentleman who happens to have the largest collection of antique Japanese tea cups in the world. George, when did you get started with a thing like that? He said, when I was 4 years old, somebody gave me a teacup. Do you have any idea how many young children right now are dry sponges? And whatever, they're just waiting to be influenced. You have no idea how they're going. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and luckily her parents are very involved in exposing her to everything. I cannot wait. Pretty soon I will be mentoring in an elementary school. And you know what I'm going to, how many of you children have ever heard Beethoven's Fifth? How many of you have ever heard Chopin's Preludes? How many of you know what a Monet watercolor looks like? One of them is going to be really neat. You all know Rodin's sculpture. I'm going to show you a picture of a sculpture. I'm not going to tell you the name. What is he doing? He's on the potty. Okay, what do you think he wasn't doing? What else was he be doing?
That's awesome.
I want to expose these kids to that. How many of you can make a paper airplane? So yeah, that's one of the things I'm planning on doing.
But we were talking earlier, and you're so true. Because of the way the funding's been, so much of the arts has been taken out of our school systems, and so these kids really are kind of floundering They don't have it. So unless you have it at home, or your parents or your caregivers are encouraging you to do it outside of school, there's none of that at school anymore. Very little. And it's really an unfortunate thing. So yes, you're right. I think kids get encouraged. You have that moment. I love the French word. What is it?
Le coup de foudre, the blow of thunder.
Love that. All right, I can't say it right now because I'm not drinking French wine, but I will later. That is so important. People have that moment. It's like an epiphany, and that's what you absolutely did.
Well, yeah, I did something like that in Fort Lauderdale about 10 years ago. I heard on the news they were going to start teaching Ebonics in school. In other words, Goethe language. And these kids were going to start emulating rock stars. Well, I made up my mind on my own through Rotary. I said, I'm going to start a program. It's called the Roll Call Program. What I did was once a month I had these kids at risk, and they were exposed to minorities, black and Hispanic, no musicians, no athletes, no rock stars. You have to run a business or have a career. And they would stand up and say, I was like you once, but I went to school and now I own my own business. I don't know if you know the name Avido Kaifa. He's the general manager of the Orlando Sentinel. Avido got up one night, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, I was raised with 11 siblings by my grandmother, and she would always say to us, you will go to college.
There was no option.
There was no option.
And I love that. So my wife experienced that too. There was no option. It was just an assumption. There was no other path but to move forward, to progress, to do something. And I think that has definitely been lost. I had somebody just say, Jerry, you're funny. He goes, Ted, you move out of the camera and just let Steve talk the entire time. Yeah. I have no ego, so that would be fine. He can have the microphone. You have so many great comments on here, and I'll show you afterward how to look at the comments and respond.
I want to talk about what I do once a week at the Cancer Center.
Please do, absolutely.
Well, I want to go back. My late wife used to say on Sunday, Puppy, don't forget Thursday. And she was dying of cancer. She said, Thursday, we have people, what, we're going? No, Thursday. I said, what's the, Thursday I go for chemo, my infusion. I said, have you lost your mind? You're looking forward to that? Oh, I love it. They had blankets there. The nurses, I work at the infusion center in Waterman once a week. And let me tell you what I do. It's a place for me to do stand-up. They come into the infusion center, and these people are thinking serious problem. And I'll say, welcome to the spa. You here for the pedi or the facial? And for a minute they'll laugh, and I'll say, for a minute they forgot where the heck they are.
That's awesome.
Or I'll take their lunch menu. Today I have the fried chains or the poached chicken feathers, and they'll look, all right, you're going to be picky. I have the tuna, the egg salad, and I walk out of there, and that's the most incredible thing. I walk out, and I say to myself, I look at the sky, I said, I am so grateful. I have people who can't walk out. They're attached to the hospital by tubes.
Correct.
And that is the secret. Every day is the greatest gift. And, I'm convinced that one of the things we have to learn in life is we all have a finite number of days.
Yes.
We do not know how many days that is. I make it a personal responsibility of myself, literally, to look at a tree a little more every day. How many greens are in that tree? Let me watch this little toddler walk around for a little while. Let me look at those clouds for a while. Right. And the idea is every day I have to live more vigorously. It's like, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. We have to understand that. We're not going to be here forever. And it's like getting down to the last couple of teaspoons of ice cream. Boy, that scraped that bull. That's where I am. And that's where I think people have to be. That we do have a finite number of days. And every day is the greatest gift.
And you acknowledge that. I think what we were talking about, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, is you see the people, you said the older guys, but it's really a lot of people following along with their spouse or their significant other in the mall with their shoulders are scrunched down, and you can tell that they are miserable in whatever state they're in.
When I do my markets, I really see guys. I sell my pottery in markets. I don't have a website. I don't want to sell pottery to somebody in Idaho I'll never meet. And I watch people, and so often I see guys my age following a wife like a puppy dog with bent shoulders. The man is beaten. I want to say, why don't you just pick out the coffin, man? It's over for you.
Well, he has in his mind. That's why he is. Yeah. And it's not just because he's married. It's because he's at a point in his life where he has no focus. There's no focus.
He's given up.
Yes, he's given up.
And there's a poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Rabbi Ben Ezra, come grow old along with me. The best is yet to be, the last of life, for which the first was made. Once you're retired, that's the chance for you, like Groucho used to say, this is your last chance to beat the other couples. This is the chance.
Right.
This is
right.
where, your self-actualization, for those, you get to a point in your life, if you're lucky enough, you realize, you're so grateful to be
So
healthy.
how do people find it? Because that's, so people will look at you and go, oh my God, he's so charismatic. He had this great career. He's done all of these things. Obviously, he didn't really have to work at it. He just knew it. And then we talked about this earlier. He went from point A to point B, and there was no struggle or insanity between. All of a sudden, you're this miraculously happy, self-actualized man at 75 who's doing his love. It doesn't just happen like that, but you can make some choices. You can do some things. And you obviously had an epiphany. I still like the French word better, the French term better.
Epiphany.
Epiphany. So what can you leave them with as far as, please?
I will tell you. Two things. When people come and look at my pottery, and I'm not an advanced potter, I'm still learning, and I'll be learning in my next life as well. They say, "I wish I had that talent." I want to take them by the scruff of the neck and take them to Hobby Lobby or Michael's and say, "I'm going to stand here. You're going to go up in every one of those aisles, and you're going to find a kit. I don't care if it's wood burning or macrame. You're going to find one kit or shipbuilding that you're going to say, I'm going to try this. Next thing you know, you say, I really love doing this." That's where that is, because you have that creative talent. The other thing is, I think the greatest thing you could ever do is to volunteer just for a couple hours a week. When you walk into a hospital, I'm not talking to sweep up blood and guts, but there are people who want to be read to.
Yes.
Just to get them a blanket. And you realize the fact that you can walk out of that hospital, and there are people in there would give anything in the world to be able to walk out and get in that car and drive away and go to Publix. They can't.
Right.
But you can.
Right.
And once you do that, I think that is the most important thing, to be able to give of yourself unconditionally. That is such a gift. You get more. Often I want to think that I should pay the hospital, let me be there, because it puts everything in focus.
Correct.
Nothing's important. You show me a multimillionaire who's got terminal cancer, I wouldn't trade places with him for all the money in the world.
No,
that
no
man
way.
gets my sympathy.
What perspective. All right, so believe it or not, it went that fast. We're at 30 minutes. So I don't, a lot of times I'm experimenting with guests that I don't know, because if I have a familiarity with you, then a lot of people go, you just know them and you're having a conversation. So I had not met Steve prior to today, and you can tell what he's doing is, which is my 2018, authentic, transparent, vulnerable. Gratitude is in your message, and how amazing that you're able to give that back. This translated, there are so many comments going up and down there, and again, I'll show you how to respond to them, because of your message, because people are feeling like the guy scrunched over walking around the mall all the time. And it's not just the 60-year-old or 70-year-old, it's the 35-year-old, the 40-year-old. People are very, very unhappy, and they don't know how to make the transition. And what you've done today, I think, is give them some tools and some insight. So we're going to, and I'll let you finish, but we're going to share Steve's information after the show, his contact information. What I love about him is that we had to go through 4 screens to get to his Facebook. He doesn't have a website. He's got an email contact, but he's impactful without it, and I love that. So any parting words?
I think, Thoreau was right. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. I don't care what age you are. But if you're miserable in your work, I can't think anything more miserable. But you have to eat. Woody Allen said money has absolutely no value. You don't need it, of course, unless you want to get a sandwich from time to time. So there's a limit to how much money, but you have to be happy outside of work. There's only 2 things I can recommend. You do have creative talents. I don't know what they are. You can find it. If you didn't have the benefit of a parent or a teacher telling you this is how I make a cylinder on a wheel, go to Hobby Lobby. Go to Michael's. Walk up and down the aisle. I don't care how silly it is. Making hula skirts. You're going to find something you really like doing. And the other thing is, find time, a couple of hours a week, just to volunteer and give of yourself. Put a smile on somebody's face and say, thank you so much for that extra blanket. Thank you. Oh no, I'm fine. Yeah, maybe a little glass of water will be fine. And these people, they're just so grateful for anything you can do.
And it feeds your soul and gives you a perspective that you can't get anywhere else.
You can't imagine. I'm not talking about working in a hospital. A couple hours a week.
Yeah.
Just, can I get your book, Mr. So-and-so? Would you like to read? Are you warm enough? Would you like this? Can I get you that? And they're so grateful.
They are.
They're so grateful.
You have more energy than most 30-year-olds I know. So you have been a joy. What a blessing to have you on the show. Please keep going.
One more story.
He's got to tell us. I love it. Keep going. You're golden.
I'm 75. And in my heart, I'm still in high school worrying if I'm going to flunk calculus or not. But there's a great story about Coco Chanel. When she turned 85, they said, Madame, and how old are you today? She said, I'm 92. They said, you look incredible. So I'm going to start telling people I'm 85. You look incredible.
You should.
85. You don't look a day over 75. Amazing.
That's awesome. Angela just popped on. Angela, thank you. Angela Robbins Hull. I didn't realize the Hull was at the end. What a fantastic gift you gave me and our audience today by introducing me to Steve and suggesting him for the show. Thank you so much, my friend. You're awesome. We love you guys. Happy Friday. We've got a whole slew of shows next week. We might hit 100 next week because we're at 92 now. So look for the 100th episode. I appreciate all of you. Have a great weekend. Find your passion, right? Find your passion.
There.
It's there. So love you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks.